The smell hit me before I even opened the front door. Grey wall dust. It opened me in the middle of my pouch. I stood there for a second, my keys still in my hand. I had not smelled that sharp, chalky dust outside a construction site in years. It was the kind of smell that stick in your nose and throat. And it was coming from inside my house. I frowned and looked at the door, suddenly uneasy. My phone was supposed to be quiet, clean, untouched. Slowly, I slid the key into the lock. For a moment, I just stood there listening. No voice, no footstep, just silence. But the smell was getting stronger. My stomach tight. Drywall dust mean construction, cutting walls, tearing something apart. But no one should have been working in my house. I pushed the door open slowly. The moment the door cracked, a cloud of pale dust drifted into the hallway light. My heart started beating faster. I had not even stepped inside yet, and I knew something was deeply wrong inside my house. I stepped inside and stopped it cold. The wall was gone, not cracked, not damaged, gone. The load-bearing wall that used to separate the hallway from the living room had been completely demolished. Where it once stood, there was now a wide open gap. Broken drywall dust covered the floor like pale snow. Pieces of wood framing were stuck against the wall. My brain switched on the way it always does. Loud path. If that wall was gone, where was the weight of the house going now? I slowly lifted my eyes to the ceiling. There it was. Most people would never notice it, but I did immediately. The ceiling above the opening had a slight dip. Only a few millimeters, but it should not be there at all. A quiet warning. I walked further inside. Derek was standing in the kitchen doorway with his arm crossed. My stepson, 31 years old. He did not look secure. He did not even look sorry. Mostly he looked annoyed that I had come home. What happened to the wall? I asked. He shrugged. Mom wanted more space. Open concept. It was her idea. I started at him. Then I crouched near the floor where the wall used to stand. No beam, no support post, no temporary bracing. I pushed away some dust and looked closer. No sole plate, no jack studs, no king studs, nothing holding the weight of the house above us. Just empty space. Behind me, Derek signed, relax, garden. It probably was not load bearing. I slowly stood up. Derek, I said quietly, you are not a structural engineer. I looked up at the sagging ceiling again. I am. I called Francis first. Francis had been my colleague for 20 years, another structural engineer. I sent him a few photos of the opening and the ceiling sag. He called back in less than 2 minutes. His voice was serious. Gordon, you need to temporary support under that span by morning if you want to sleep safely in that house. That was all I needed to hear. By 8 that evening, my contractor friend AI was standing in my living room with a flashlight and a tape measure. The house was quiet except for the sound of tools and the slow hum of work lamp. AI stared at the opening for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. Whoever took this out did not know what they were doing. Together we installed a temporary beam and two support posts. It was not pretty, but it would hold the weight for now. When we finished, drywall dust still covered everything. I did not clean it. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table and waited. Palu came home Thursday evening. She stepped inside, saw the temporary beam, and froze. What is that? She asked. I slid an envelope across the table. Inside were photographs of the wall, emails from the building department confirming no permit had ever been pulled, and the contractor estimate for the proper structural repair, 31,000 US dollar. Paulon read the number twice. Then she looked up at me. That seems very high. I nodded slowly. Then I asked the only question that mattered. Did you know? The wall was load bearing. She hesitated. Then she said quietly, I thought you were being too precious about the house. And in the moment, something settled in my chest. Not a mistake, not a oversight, a decision. She had simply decided my concern were inconvenient and went around me entirely. In the end, I paid the $31,000 myself. There was not much choice. The house needed to be repaired properly. I hired a licensed contractor. We filled the paperwork with the city and receive a permit after the fact. I submitted stamp engineering driving showing the correct beam size and support points. Then the real work began. The temporary beam came out. A proper flush beam was installed inside the ceiling. New posts were tied into the foundation. The framing was rebuilt the way it should have been in the first place. The inspector came 6 weeks later. He walked through the house, checked the work, and signed the approval form. The final bill was slightly higher than the estimate. Repair like that usually are. Doug moved out a few days later. Now yelling, no agreement, just a quiet moment in the hallway while he carried a box to the door. He nodded once before he left. I said something to him at some point. Doug, your childhood stopped being the explanation and started becoming the excuse. He did not argue, he just left. Pauline and I tried counseling for 3 months. One afternoon, the therapist asked her a simple question. What did Gordon's opinion mean to you in that moment? Pauline thought for a moment. Then she said, I suppose I thought he would get over it. That answer opened everything. We separated quietly in spring. The legal side was simple. I had bought in the house in 1981, 20 years before I ever met her. The house still stands today. And I learned something from all it. A loaded bearing wall, once removed without proper support, can bring down much more than people accept. Some repairs have to be done properly or not at all.